Oh, there we go.
There we go. Yay. As we always do, we do that little cheer when we hit the record button. Hello. And of course, right when I hit the record button, the phone in the shop starts ringing.
Okay, that's why you have an answering machine, right?
That's exactly right. So
here, so it's got to be late there too, even though we drop them on Saturday nights.
It's getting late here. It is getting, I have to say though, it was a beautiful, as I know you don't like this, but it was a beautiful snowy day here today. And it's the first snow we've had. And so it's already melting and getting slushy. So, bleh. But here we are. So I guess we should introduce ourselves like we always need to do. So I'm Megan Holmes. I am sitting here at my shop in St. Louis, Missouri, the Needlepoint Clubhouse, also known as STL Needlepoint on Instagram and I think on Facebook too, but anyway. And this, my friends, is...
I'm Melissa MacLeod, and I'm here just outside Detroit at the Floss in Grosse, Michigan. And yeah, it's snowy here today too. So together we are the Pointing It Out team.
Pointing It Out podcast. And so here we are again. And speaking of the white stuff, the, I guess, subject of this week's podcast is also white. I decided it should be called What's with the White Cards. And Melissa kind of laughed at me because I always have stupid quippy type things like that. But I like alliteration. So what's with the white cards, Melissa? We are talking about Rainbow Gallery. So for anybody who's ever walked into my shop, many shops, Melissa's shop, you will see a plethora of all these little white cards, all this stuff. Whoop, I just threw one. And at the bottom, you see the RG, and that stands for Rainbow Gallery. I love Rainbow Gallery. I love the threads. I love the company, but I didn't when I first started stitching. So when I first started stitching, I was like, I'm just going to stay very purist. I'm just going to do all wool, all basket weave. I love the very classic look. And I remember going into the shop and they were like, can we get you some velvet? And I was like, no. Can we get you some sparkle? And I was like, oh, no, I don't do that. And then I started working and I think they were all like,
you laughed and they're like, boring.
Yeah, who is this girl? So then I started working at the shop and I will never forget the day. And I'm sure you have these days at your shop too. I will never forget the day when they were like, hey, do you want to put threads away? And I was like, oh yeah, that sounds fun. And they plopped this massive box on the desk. Like, I mean, like 3.5 feet tall, probably like a big box. And I looked in and I was like, oh, cute. There's a lot of thread to put away. It was all these cards come in all these little plastic things. And they're literally laying like this. And they're all stacked up. And I was like, people must use a lot of this stuff because this is thousands of cards that I'm about to put away.
For sure. Needlepoint shops, I think cross stitchers use a lot of Rainbow Gallery products too. A lot of counted needlepoint and cross stitch people. Like it's not just a painted canvas that we pretty much are. So
right. So we have a lot of shared experience now with the white card, and I've also done we actually both have collectively done a lot of research, but we are not going to pretend to be the experts. In fact, we've talked about how we would love to have at some point someone from Rainbow Gallery to actually get on here. We'd love to see the factory and just see how it's all done. But we thought it might just be fun from a user perspective to talk about how we use these threads, what we use them for. Perhaps you'll hear about things that you haven't heard of before.
And I think what people might not know, and I am forgetting who did the canvas. But there's a canvas with Sally London on it.
Yes, isn't it? It's somebody from Florida, Paris, isn't it? Don't they have this Sally London? Yeah.
For those who don't know, Sally London was their general manager for quite a long time, and now she is semi-retired, I think. And so she'll still be at the shows and stuff, but she's not involved in the day-to-day basis. So, right, like maybe 6 weeks ago, we tried to reach out to her, but she's, I think, enjoying her retirement. So we haven't heard back from her, but we would love to have like a true Rainbow Gallery expert on here. So we're just going to kind of half-ass it like we normally do.
Well, let's not call it that. We always fly by the seat of our pants, but what we do have is a little bit of flying by the seat of our pants and a whole lot of shared experience. And
we've done a lot.
I'd say more than anything, we have a lot of opinions. So,
Oh, oh,
so we can at very least share that. So, but what I do know is that what I find interesting, and I think you know this, is Rainbow Gallery and I have something in common, and that is that we were born in the same year.
oh,
Rainbow Gallery was started in 1979.
isn't that cute?
So Rainbow Gallery and I are both 41 years old. And they are in Burbank.
Yeah, what were you saying?
Oh, nothing. Just that they're just sunshiny like me too. Burbank, California. I kind of wish I was in Burbank right now, to be honest. It doesn't sound like such a bad place to be. But I've never been there. I would love to go. But
Little mini market every January. Did you know that?
I did know that. And it's been going on for a couple of years. Is it in
Yeah.
February usually?
January or February, and yeah, it's only like usually 20 vendors. It's a very small market, but every year I'm like, I think I should go, and then I don't. And then we haven't had it because COVID. So.
Oh, well, the next time they do it, we are for sure like saddling up the wagons and heading out because we've got to do a podcast live from Rainbow Gallery. Wouldn't that be cool?
Good idea. Okay, good.
Check. Okay, put that in the memory bank. So, back to kind of some of the basics. Rainbow Gallery was started in 1979. What I think is cool about that is that in the 70s, and I would say even probably through some of the early 80s, a lot of people were still just using the wools. So I'd be very interested to hear kind of what was the products at the beginning, and how did that all progress? Because, man, their product line now, I counted, so they have a very good website. I kind of counted, you probably knew this because you're smarter than me, but they have 45 different, I'm calling it types, like lines, like thread lines. Types is probably the wrong word because, for example, they have a couple of lines where they have both regular and petite, or regular, or I say regular because that's just how I think it. 18, petite, or 13. So, but 45 different types of threads. I counted kind of collectively. I sort of know what your stock is, and I obviously know what mine is. There are about 18 different threads of those 45 that I don't have here in the store. That's either because I just didn't inherit it, or we had the line and it just didn't do well for us. So I can speak pretty comfortably on I'd say, I'll give it 35.
I'm probably there with you. Like the ones that we don't carry, I did go through the list, and I have stitched with most of them. True confession, 2 of them on that list I had in my stash and they went in the trash can because I hated them so much. But I always said certain threads, like it's just your personal taste, your personal experience. Like some people refuse to stitch with neon rays, and we'll get into all the details, but they'll say, no, I won't stitch with that. And other people are like, that's my favorite thread. There's nothing better than that, So it's all like your personal experience and what your patience level is. And
I think just different people stitch differently and use different, Joanna, our pal that we talk about a lot from the Plum Stitchery, mentioned the other day how much she loves pattern Ann. And I was like, have you lost your mind? Like,
she likes that pliable merino from Vineyard that they discontinued that nobody else liked except for her.
Yeah. Just to prove the point, all I'm saying is that we all have our preferences. So whether or not, and we didn't go through specifically each thread before we did this. So there might be a thread that you're like, and I'm like, that's my favorite. So, what we kind of decided was that we sort of put these into buckets. And I don't know which bucket we should start with. Maybe just at the top, we have a list here. So the bucket that I think, I'm just looking at the list that I would say is probably some of the more popular threads would be the 1 strand sparkles is what I like to call them. Do you have a better term for those?
Sometimes I refer to things as like grab and go threads as opposed to something you have to strand. Like Splendor is like a workhorse silk that is a Rainbow Gallery thread, but it takes, you've got to strand it, you've got to lay it, all the things we talked about in our strandable thread episode. But I have lots of customers that say, I just want to cut and go because they don't want to, have that intermediary step.
Yeah, and I agree with that. You always use that term, and I forget to use it because I think it's a good one. But the cut and go, and what I think is interesting about the threads we're going to go over is that some of them, most of them are cut and go. Interestingly, on either size mesh. A couple of them actually are ones that I'm like, I'd rather not use that on this mesh. So so at the top of my list, and I think you would agree, you just use the workhorse term, and I think that this is the workhorse term for the cut and go sparkle is silk lame. I mean, silk lame is like the workhorse thread. Now we carry both what I say regular, it's just the way my brain works, but it's silk lame 18, and we also carry petite silk lame.
Now the silk lame 18, you're saying silk lame 18, but the numbers 18 aren't actually written on the card. It just says just silk lame, doesn't it?
I don't think so.
Yeah, it just says silk lame, and then
it does say for 18 count. Here, I'm sorry, I have all these threads. That...
But you know, the silk lame for 13 has 13 in big letters.
Oh, it says it here.
Yeah, that's what
okay.
I'm saying. So when you see silk lame braid, that's like the basic that generally is, yeah, see how like the 418 counts really little and the petite's bigger?
Yeah,
so that's what I'm talking about.
So we carry both of these. You don't, and you actually mentioned something very smart to me before we came on.
Oh, so for anyone who's been to Megan's shop and then been to my shop, I like the mini shop. Like people, I have people all the time who watch the podcast and they say, "Oh, I can't wait to come visit." And I think, "Oh God, they're going to be so disappointed because my shop, square footage wise, is very small. So I have to be very thoughtful about what I put on my walls because I don't have endless amounts of space." So one of the decisions that I made is I carry the full line of silk lame braid, as do you. And I think that's 200 and some colors, 205, something like that.
Wow.
And the petite is the same exact thread. The difference between the petite and the regular silk lame braid, and we should back up a little bit because we're jumping into the middle. Silk lame braid is strands of Splendor mixed with a metallic filament.
Yeah, I'm figuring to count how many because I've never.
I don't know the exact number of strands. There's maybe 2 strands of filament and about
filament and 4 strands of Splendor in the regular silk lame. Yep.
And the petite is probably 1 and 3.
Wow. Maybe. Wow, you're good. That's it.
Right?
Yep.
I don't even carry it, and I'm right. So if you have started a project and run out and all you can find is the regular silk lame braid, all you do is cut your length of thread and pull out the couple. Now, am I recommending that if you have a giant project that calls for petite silk lame braid, do you want to do that all the time? No, big pain, but you can do the workaround because it's the exact same thing.
Well, the only other reason that I would not personally want to do that is that we all know that metallic threads are kind of a beast to work with because they as people say, shred or fray. This is spun so that it doesn't shred right away. I mean, it stays together, but I've never tried it. But my guess is if you start pulling things out, it's going to kind of unwind it. So it's going to be kind of a pain to.
Just like when you fly though, like Splendor, if you just pull it straight up and it'll gather and it'll drop back down. I mean, again, it's not ideal, but if you're in a pinch, it works.
It would work. Know? And I don't know what they use as their filament. That's interesting because they don't sell, to my knowledge, unless it's like part of the sparkle braid or something that the smaller, I don't know what they use as their filament, but what I do know is that the silk lame is Splendor. And so if you need to ply up, you could kind of probably search. And my guess is that there's some kind of reference sheet somewhere. I don't have it, but where you could find what the base color of Splendor is that mixes with the silk lame that you've grabbed. Now, the other thing that I have done here unintentionally, but I've done it.
Hold on, let's back up a minute. I think that I wish we talked about this beforehand because I need to go prove my theory, but I think the numbers carry across the whole line.
Well,
I think the last 2 digits at least carry across the whole line.
Well, that's interesting. So I've got 942 right here.
Isn't that right?
Possibly.
Well, let's back up. At least with, let me just say one thing. With the silk lame line, the 3 numbers are the same. SL is the 18, SP is the petite, and LB is the 13 mesh, I think.
Right. So what you're saying is correct, which is SL 242 and SP 242 are the same. What I was trying to say was I don't know what number corresponds with the Splendor.
I think the digits are the same.
This is interesting because this is 942 and this is 242. in the
Yeah,
green.
there's some correlation between them, because if you, like, all their whites are O2s and all their blacks are O1.
I bet you're totally right. And I'm sitting right here, but I can't put my finger on it. But anyway, the point is that it's all interchangeable product.
Yeah.
What I was going to say is, so people say, why do you carry the whole line? Why do you need that many? So I have unintentionally, which I wish I had paid more attention, but so my guess is that there's a couple of the silk lame that use this Splendor, but they use different filaments. So what I'm like this is a tone on tone silk lame. There's also a like
gold in it,
silver or a gold or an iridescent. So they're just slightly different. Iridescent to me always makes things look a little green or blue. The gold makes this look a little different. So anyway, so that's why we carry it, because it's a great across the board thread. And the other thing I learned the other day, and I'm gonna have to again check we're not the experts, but so there are 20 yards on these silk lame cards.
really?
Did you know that? Wait, this says 20 yards on petite, 10 yards on regular. I did not know that.
It's 10, yeah.
Because I thought there was 10 on everything, but I looked at 20 and it was petite. Yeah. You can buy this stuff by the spool. So the other day listen to this. I know. The other day I had a customer who needed 25 cards of Neon Rays Plus, which why don't we move right into Neon Rays Plus? You carry Neon Rays Plus, don't you?
Okay. I want to back up to one little quick thing though, because this is a question I get all the time. Why would I use silk lame braid versus Cryonic? And back to, it's a personal choice. And I know Cryonic has nothing to do with little white cards, but those are the two most common, I think, at this point, sparkly threads. And I always tell people, Cryonic, there's pros and cons of each. Some people love them both. Some people only like one, only like the other. Cryonic, because it's on the spool, tends to like tie itself in little slip knots as you stitch. Silk lame braid, if you have super dry hands and a lot of hangnails, you'll catch some of the strands. So if you're trying to make a difference between those two, you just have to decide which is like less annoying to you, I guess.
Well, the other thing is that silk lame gives you some sheen and pure color. Cryonic is all metallic. There's nothing, no either natural or unnatural fiber. It's all metallic.
So I'm sorry about that. In the usage of it, if people say, well, I don't like sparkly threads because every time you use Cryonic, it naps up. I'm like, whoa.
Gotcha. Let me introduce you to the Cadillac, which is silk lame braid. So anyway, so somebody was wanting 25 cards of Neon Rays Plus the other day for a background. And so I called Rainbow Gallery and, I'm like, hey, Neil, what's going on? And so how soon can I get these? And he was like, oh, that's going to take a while. We haven't carded that yet. And I was like, well, let's peel that onion back a little bit. What does that mean? And he goes, well, we have them on 300-yard spools and then we card them. And I was like, can I buy a spool? And he said, well, sure, I can drop that in the mail to you today, because that means they didn't have to do the labor.
Right.
This.
So it's a lot cost effective too, right?
It's a little more cost effective, not a ton. I mean, a little bit, but the other thing I think, so it also caused her to have to buy 50 yards extra, 250 versus 300 yards. But the other thing I think is interesting about it, if there's a color that you use a lot, it doesn't get the kink because it's on a spool.
Right.
So I was like, that is something right there. So, and I don't think they mind selling us the whole spool. I mean, he didn't seem like it was a problem.
Yeah, I do that with Cryonic too. So,
right.
Yeah, that's always a valid question. We need a huge quantity of some things. I think, again, we're going down different rabbit holes. I'm sorry.
So that's what we do, Melissa. That's what we do. By the way, cheers. Yeah. We're gonna bring it back to this. Take a breath. We've had a long week, y'all.
Yeah, so you and I were talking a little while ago about Bellaluso, which is Rainbow Gallery's sister company, distributes Bellaluso. And I said, well, you can just get a hank of it. You're like, wait, what? So, so anytime a stitcher needs a huge volume of something, I mean, I even did it with Sundance rhinestones. Somebody needed like 300 of them. I called, they're like, we can send those to you in a tube. And it saved her a ton of money. She got it lickety split, whatever. So
yeah, and it's
really a huge volume that's worth asking your local store for sure.
That's right. So Melissa and I decided after this long week, and we were really excited about this podcast, but we also realized it was going to be a little scattered. But we know that you're all so sweet and you'll hang with us. But I said, why don't we break our dry January? So here we are.
Okay, girls, but oh well. Okay.
Okay, so anyway, Neon Race Plus, now that I have it in my hand, we'll just check this off our list too, is actually what Melissa calls a ribbon thread, right? I say it's flat or ribbon because it's like a ribbon. It's flat. It's not circular like the spun threads. So I use this on either 13 or 18 because either, to me, it either like crunches itself down for 18, or if you're careful and you let it unwind and you just stitch away with it on 13, it works just fine.
Oh, this is I think this is why I carry so many rainbow gallery threads, because it's all back to the space issue. The majority of rainbow gallery threads can work on both 13 and 18 mesh. There's a few exceptions to that, but most of them can go either way. And that's just a lovely luxury that we don't always have as stitchers.
That's right. So, so Neon Race Plus falls into our flat, I would say cut and go sparkle. We just did, I just want to make sure I'm keeping track here. We did our Silk Lame, and then Neon Race Plus Sans Metallic is Neon Race. Not Neon Race minus, just Neon Race. And I'm trying to find it. I grabbed a really pretty color. Here it is.
I have all the samples here, and you have all the, look at how that glows in that picture. Love it.
Isn't it pretty?
What's really interesting on Neon Race is the way you hold it, like whether you're holding it flat or here, like how it catches the light completely changes the color. It's amazing.
And I did not purposely pick them both up in orange. Do you have anything there that you've stitched with either Neon Race Plus or Neon Race? Do you know?
So I'm sure I do.
I love Neon Rays because I feel like there's a sheen like no other. You just alluded to in the light. It's a bit of a devil to work with because it is rayon, hence the name Ray. And so it does pull apart. It does shred. And people say, oh, I hate that stuff. And I get it. I get why. But I think that there are absolutely times in canvases when you want sheen and not sparkle.
Well, and I used to refuse to work with it until, this was years ago now, because pretty much most people who've stitched for longer than 2 months know this little trick. But once you straighten it, it's so much easier to work with. And there's 3 ways you can straighten it that I can think of offhand.
Go.
So, and I don't have them right now, and I wish I had another pencil here.
Oh, you talk about that thingy with the foam in it?
The stick that you wrap it and pull. That was the first way I learned how to do it. And then I hurt my hands practically doing it. But it's like you snap the crinkles out of the thread. It's crazy. And it works, but it's too high maintenance for me. So then the second way I learned to do it, actually, maybe there's a 4th way, which the second way I learned how to do it was someone said, just run it under water and lay it out on a paper towel and it'll dry in less than 5 minutes. It dries like this. It dries so fast.
Really?
So I would cut like, 6 or 7 or 8, however many lengths I thought I would need for my project, put them under the sink, lay them on a paper towel, and like literally they're dry in less, I don't even think it's 5 minutes. I have had people go and run their fingers on it. Not for me.
Not COVID approved.
No, not for me, but believe me, people tell me that. And the way that most people I think now flatten it is just running it really quick through a mini ceramic hair flattener.
Flat iron.
So,
And to my knowledge, again, we're not the experts, but I know that when you were talking with Jill of the Silk Road Fiber Company, she didn't love the flat iron for her threads because it could change the color and the texture a little bit, I think.
that's a natural product. This is all, yeah.
And that's what I was going to say. So I don't think you'd have any problem. Now this, I'd be extra careful because that heat could melt.
Well, the interesting thing is I find as a stitcher that the crinkles and the Neon Race Plus doesn't separate. Like on the Neon Rays, it wants to separate. If you have the least little hangnail, it gets caught, or on the corner of your canvas. That metallic seems to change almost the whole nature of the beast.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't separate like that.
I also purposefully grabbed glow in the dark. I think there's 3 or 4 or 5 glow in the dark Neon Rays, and they're just really fun.
They also have some fluorescent ones now too.
Yeah, I think yeah. Love that. All right.
Other thing I love to do with that, can we talk about Neon Rays Plus for a minute?
Of course.
And I don't have a good sample here. I have kind of a sample. I love to ruche it. Do you ruche it ever?
Oh, because you can pull the metallic.
Yeah, so you pull the
Wow.
metallic.
I have
So
not
this
done that.
is a bad example because this is actually crimate, but this gathered guy here is metallic that I've ruched. And so
Cute.
it's the same thing on the Neon Rays Plus. You can tap that little end,
Uh-huh.
hold the other end, and you pull it together, and it ruches, and it is the perfect bottom to a painted pony angel. You know how that has that little.
Oh, yeah. And you can just tack it right in.
I can't get that ruffle to look right. So there's a lot of really good uses for it, but it ruches really well.
This is a dumb question, but I'm not scared of asking dumb questions. Is Neon Rays Plus very similar to Primark 1/16? So that's what you were saying. That's
Yeah, I carry both of those threads, and I try not, again, space. I don't have the full line of Neon Rays Plus, so I try to carry
the colors.
colors in the 1/16 versus that.
Makes a lot of sense. But I thought that's when you said that this is not Neon Rays. I had a feeling that's what you were actually referring to. So another thread that's flat, while we're in the flat biz here, let's see, is Sparkle Rays. So speaking of space, we do have a lot of space here, but I think it was a space and a business decision for me. We just carry Sparkle Rays Petite. We were carrying the regular and we weren't selling it that well. I think back to your point, Petite works just fine on 13 count. And so unless you're trying to, gosh, I don't know, some long stitches or Bargello or something on 13 count is, I guess, why you'd need the regular, but I think the Petite works just fine.
So let's talk Sparkle Rays versus Neon Rays Plus.
I was just going to go there. Yep.
I don't know the true difference. I know what I feel like the difference is.
I'll tell you what the difference is, because I thought it was true and I'm correct. Do you want to know?
Sure.
You want to guess?
No, I'm just going to tell you my opinion of the difference is Sparkle Rays has a little bit more meat to it. Like it's a little thicker in substance. And it tends to look a tiny bit heavier, but I don't want to make it sound like a bad thing.
You mean you think Sparkle Rays feels heavier to you? Yes. And here's why. So Neon Rays is 55 poly and 45 rayon. Rayon to me would be thinner, lighter. Sparkle Rays is 96 poly. And when you know, like polyester suits, like that thicker, chunkier. Poly is heavier than nylon. So this is 96 poly and 4% nylon. So I think what you're experiencing is just the texture difference, because poly has a different feel than rayon, frankly.
I would agree with you. Fabulously. That ruches really well because it's thicker. It tends to have a little bit more oomph to it. If that's.
It would almost be more like pleated, opposed to like the way it kind of comes together is a little stiffer. Right. Is that fair? Yeah.
And I think the colors are really interesting in that line. We used to carry it. I don't carry it anymore. Space.
I know.
But the colors were really unusual.
I agree. And I would say from the perspective of doing it, just about any type of stitch, the width is going to be the same. It's just going to be that texture is going to be a little bit hardier on this guy than this guy. But from a color standpoint, if you like a color better in one or the other, I'd say they're pretty much interchangeable would be my.
Can we talk about a couple other little minutia? Because I'm into minutia.
Sure.
So first of all, hold that card back up. Oh no, here I have a card. I can show you. So a brand new card of Rainbow Galleries will always have this angled across the back, correct?
Well, these don't.
Okay, so I'm a big liar. A lot of times it'll have angles across the back, and then they always tuck it into this little crevice. And so sometimes people can't figure out how to open these if this end isn't cut. This end is cut really short. So I'm like, oh, there's always this crevice, and you have to bend the card to get it going.
Yep,
so
agreed.
And I think there's a lot of talk all the time about dye lots in Rainbow Galleries. Rainbow Galleries will tell you that there are no dye lots. Other people swear that the font used on the bottom mean it's a different dye lot. Rainbow Galleries says that's not true. I don't know what to tell you. I feel like sometimes it's kind of true, like in my experience. And the other thing that you can also tell how old the thread is, and of course this one is interesting because the winter is an unusual thread for them. This one says made in England. Where are yours made?
I don't have a made by. Oh, made in Japan. Made in Japan. I'm sorry, I was looking in the wrong spot.
So they're for maybe 3 or 4 years ago, most of their threads were made in Germany. And again, I shouldn't even be talking because maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. and they no longer,
China.
okay, so they no longer manufacture in Germany, is my understanding from Sally. I hope I have that right.
Huh, this is fascinating. I've never paid any attention. This is Italy. Okay, sorry. I'm doing a little world tour.
So if you see a German one, that tends to be, and maybe that was with a certain thread line, that would have been an older run of the thread. So, and I want to say this in terms of if you're trying to finish up an old project and you're trying to figure out the age of things, those fonts might not tell you a dial-up, but they've got to tell you something, because the same font is always in the package of 6.
Correct.
Because they come packaged in 6. I don't know if we were clear about that at the beginning. When we as shop owners order things, we order a pack of whatever the rainbow gallery thread is, and it comes in a little plastic package of 6 cards.
Why did I think it was 5? Because I don't do enough ordering for the shop, do I?
You have a thread, girl.
Oh, because Essentials comes in 5s. Sorry. Okay. That's the other white card. This is the imposter. This is not Rainbow Gallery.
Oh,
I love Essentials. I love Planet Earth Essentials, but it's the imposter white card.
We're down. Okay, keep going. So we've talked about.
So I think I've got, so the only flat that I have left to talk about is I would say personal of all 45 threads. There is one that's coming on a close second. My favorite is Fireworks.
14, 15, which is your favorite?
Fireworks.
I know, FT14 or FT15.
Oh, it all depends. So like if you're stitching, so like Plum Stitchery, she, and there's a couple others who are really good at using a couple of different gold colors in the same piece. So you'll see like a really yellow gold. You'll see like a vintage gold that's browner. So 14, 15, and then this is 56, which is a lighter, like yellower. I love Fireworks. I love Fireworks.
My favorite of theirs is, I think it's FT11, which is the black. And the black makes the best all-time Santa's boots.
Santa's boots, yeah, because they look a little like
it looks like patent leather.
Yeah.
But you don't have to rip your hair out to do it. And we'll talk about patent leather in a minute. And patent leather's awesome in a certain place. But those who like, I want to stitch with patent leather, but I don't want the work of it. I'm like, black Fireworks is going to be your new best friend. So.
Yes. So Fireworks, we talked about this briefly, and I forgot to ask you one thing because Melissa really is more knowledgeable than me in a lot of ways. So Fireworks, what we carry is Fireworks and Fireworks Soft Sheen. The Soft Sheen has a much larger line than the regular Fireworks. It's either F or FT. Now there used to be holographic. Do you know?
Yeah, but I don't know what their codes were.
So I don't know what it was, but what I'm saying is there was a third friend in this grouping, but I think that's been discontinued.
To my knowledge as well, but I don't know. They have.
I love Fireworks so much that if they had any more of them, I would have them here.
I have some of both, and mine is usually like color driven. So
you and I were. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
We were just talking about the difference earlier. So the difference between soft sheen and regular.
So there is no true horse's mouth information on this. We collectively made this up. I feel like the metallic is like the rock star. Like there is nothing. There is like this, and the camera doesn't do it justice. You really can't tell the difference on camera. Well, maybe, no, you can't. So this guy is like Shimmer City. This guy has like a little more of a frostiness about him. You know, when you get lipstick and you get like either glitter or frost, I feel like this one's kind of frost and this one's kind of like ready to rock and roll at the disco. But
yeah, I was gonna say one's the disco ball and one's the shirt you wore to the disco.
Right. But here's what I would say about this, and you can feel free to correct me. Unless you have a very, very trained eye, I am not sure that I could look at someone's canvas and be like, oh, that's Fireworks soft sheen, and that's Fireworks. I mean,
yeah. They're different. To me, it's like whatever color you need.
Colors. And I'll be honest, we are out of a few, but I was trying to find 2 that were the exact same color to try to compare, and I couldn't find them. So I do think that maybe they're just smidge different in formula, but again, we need somebody.
So you asked earlier about things. So this little guy has a lot of, and I'm not gonna be able to tell the difference. This is a lot of neon rays plus and fireworks all in this little one down.
So to me, the difference between those two is a little more obvious. So I can usually pick out.
This has gotta be fireworks. The green, oh, sorry, I'm off camera. This has gotta be fireworks.
Have another drink, Melissa.
Well, I'm blind in one eye. Don't abuse the handicapped.
Do you want me to put a patch on so we're both the same?
I didn't have to wear a patch until I was 5. It's terrible.
Oh.
Anyway, there's a lot of these in here.
So I don't know. I could not tell the difference between two different kinds of fireworks, but I think I could tell the difference between two different kinds of neon rays. And the reason why is that sheen of the neon of the rayon versus all the metallic. So that, to me, that's the difference between those two. But
right.
Fair. Okay. Have we plowed through? I think we've plowed through the flat ribbon style, not flat in color, but the ribbon style one strand sparkles. So now we're on to.
Well, let's talk really fast about Entice and Glisten, because I think they're like the relatives of Silk Lame braid.
Sure. Right. So I think you're exactly right. So I think the closest companion and probably my second favorite to Silk Lame is Glisten. And why am I not finding it here next to me?
Yeah, if I can find more space on my walls at some point, that will be what I will add. I do not have it, and I love it.
Well,
so
yes, I do.
Glisten is a wool based with a sparkle, so it's kind of think like Bella Lusso mixed with the filament, which is metal. I'm just saying like a thin wool twisted together with a little bit of filament. So it looks a lot like Silk Lame braid, but it is not as blingy because wool is obviously has less sheen than silk does. So.
And I love this thread. And like you said, I know you would bring it in if you had some space. So this is 2 strands of Bella and 2 strands of filament.
It is Bella Lusso. I said it. It feels like it's Bella Lusso, but I don't know that. Okay.
It is. I don't know why I know that. Somebody told me that.
Well, Floor distributes Bella Lusso, and Floor and Rainbow Gallery are sister companies.
Our bud. Yeah, I mean, this is, if it's not Bella, I would be surprised. Someone told me that, and I think it's true. I lost my train of thought. Oh, so what they say on here is that it's for 18 count. I think this works again fine on 13. So what I think it's Patricia Stone, but you might know. Somebody said that their very favorite turkey work thread is Glisten. And
she said that on the podcast,
maybe that's where I got it.
Maybe
so, like there's a lot of information
and make me a liar, so whatever.
Well, anyway, we've had Patricia teach in the shop before, and I think she says that this is her favorite turkey work thread, and I can see why, because Bella is a wonderful turkey work thread, and this just gives you a little dimension because it's got the metallic. We used a green Glisten for a pom-pom. I don't have the sample. We did like a witch's hat that had a pom-pom on it. And so we used the lime green.
Where's my kit?
Oh, I know. Well, talk to Kate Dickerson. Kate, if you're watching, get to painting, sister.
Kate, I've got a project to do. I've got nothing to stitch at home.
Right. Poor Kate. I talked to her the other day. She's actually literally painting canvases.
I know. So is Kathy Schenkel. A lot of these gals are just working themselves to the bone to make all these stitches happy. So,
it's crazy. But anyway, God love you all. And we're just giving you trouble, Kate. So anyway, that's a great canvas, and I know you want to get it. And it will come with a lime green Glisten to make the pom-pom on the witch. And it's way cool, and I love it. And the only difference between this and the Silk Lame is the texture. You're going to get a little, I love it for snow. I love it for white snow because it's just got this more airy, fluffy feeling, whereas the silk kind of has that
a little more
denser, sheer.
Yeah.
It's
not shiny.
Yeah. So that's a great thread. We both have our threads that we hate, and I think it's fair to say this, right? Hate's a really strong word. I tell my kids not to use the word.
Dislike working with.
I dislike working with.
See, I don't carry it, and to me, it's kind of It's not my favorite to stitch with, but it has such an amazing look to it.
Second to none.
If you don't do an entire background in it, but for little accents in your canvas, I think it's amazing. Amazing.
It's worth it for color. It's worth it for texture. It's
only the one time I remember using it, that's what I'm right.
I can't hear her.
I am next to positive that it's the Capitol building in this one. That's shiny.
I'm having a hard time seeing that, but oh yeah.
I'm next to positive that that's it.
So their white, the Entice white is great. This color is impressive. So what makes it so amazingly bright and actually torturous is that it's rayon and polyester. So they don't want to live together. There's no natural fiber in this at all. So you've got this rayon metallic stuff, and they're like, dude, I don't even like you. I don't want to be in the same strand with you. I can't hug on you. We're not friends.
You have to use a short length for sure.
Oh, it shreds like crazy. You need to use the tiniest little bit, plow through. You know what I haven't ever done? And can you use the thread zap on this guy?
Well, right now I'm having a hard time finding the thread zap, so there's that. We'll talk about that later.
I have a couple on my shelf if you need one. Anyway,
anything that's like anything that's polyester will burn like that. So
it'll kind of melt together. So that might be a good, anyway, maybe I should have zapped it and then we would have more of a love affair. But this guy, I said to my staff, I'm done. I'm not using this anymore, ever. We're getting rid of it. And they were all like, slow your roll. There's reasons to keep it. I was like, okay.
So we talked a little beforehand. Two of the threads that we're probably not really going to talk about are the one that you say you shouldn't use the word hate. I'm sorry, I'm going to use hate, is patina. It is the most evil thread, and I believe, again, you don't carry it, I don't carry it, I believe it is all rayon as well. So anytime you get 100% rayon thread, it's going to be a challenge. And I used it on a project, and I have a big thread stash at home, you'll shock to know. And I've done a lot of like thread color clubs from other stores and blah, blah. And I went through my entire stash, pulled out all my cards of patina, put them in the trash.
Did you have a fire? Because that would have been fun.
I was like, I am done. I am done with this.
This is supposed to be fun.
Yeah. And then I think you brought up panache. And I said, well, panache is its evil cousin. So
well, I took panache off the shelf. I thought panache reminded me just as much, because sometimes, so you always say space, which is true. We, believe it or not, we do have some spacious use too. We can't just pack. I mean, I'm not one to just like have a flea market. I want things to be displayed nicely. But there is something to be said for like having to order too. I mean, we've got so many thread lines that we have to deal with, and ordering one more thread line, when to me, panache, and I never used patina, but panache reminded me texture wise of both Trebizond and Man Ray's. It both kind of had that like slippery, and I thought, well, frankly, I think that they both could be interchangeable in some ways. So that's why we don't carry panache. And we just know that you hate patina. So moving on. If anybody wants to know about panache or patina, we will find you another shop owner who loves them.
my friend Patty sells panache.
All right, Patty, call Stitch Stash.
Yeah. There you go.
All right, so back to the cut and goes. We're still in Sparkle, girl. We gotta.
I know we're not.
So something that I don't use very much, I've used it once, is cornet braid. Cornet braid comes in 16, 8, and I think 12. It reminds me a lot of the Krynet cord. Cord. Isn't that what it's called?
Cord.
Yeah. It's very dense. It's very, it doesn't want to stitch basket weave. You will want to like gouge your eyes out if you're going to try to stitch basket weave.
Right?
Pardon me?
You're going to couch that quite a bit, I would
couch it, long stitch it. I like it. You know why we started carrying this? Frankly, our local A&G was doing a project with these, and so people got into it, liked it. So that's why we now carry it. I'm not even sure how many colors it comes in. Pardon me?
That's a cute little crown card.
Cute little
crown.
Oh, I couldn't hear you. It does. That is a reason why.
It's very cute.
My employee, Angie Kirkland, would love that. She loves the crowns. She's got her Needlepoint, the Sport of Queens theme going. So she would love that. So anyway, we carried that in a couple colors. I don't have much to say about it. braid is one that we do carry this full line, but the full line is like 12 colors, I think, maybe. And the best color is their red. I just use this. I prefer it on 13. It's a little heavy. It's 12 strand, so you can pull a couple strands out if you need to. But it is, I used it on my Mary Poppins cherries. It's an orangey red, and it's got this gold in it, and I adore it. So
I knew you could pull out of it. I've always just used it as is.
yeah, I mean, it's not ideal because now this is made of nylon and polyester again. This is a funny guy. It kind of, it almost like each ply kind of fuzzes. So I don't love it. It's similar to the Entice, but the colors again are worth it. And I didn't find my distaste for it as much as. Next on the list is Frosty Rays and Petite Frosty Rays. Where are they? Here we go. So you carry this, don't you?
We do.
And you
can.
can.
No, let me rephrase that. We do not carry petite. We carry regular, and no one seems to understand the difference between the two. And the difference is super, like, almost. I mean, according to Sally, when I used to talk to her all the time, that there's almost no difference.
The difference is the size of the filament.
The size of the filament. So she was saying, like, if someone comes in and they've started a project in one and you only have the other, when you stitch with it, you almost won't see the difference.
So I think what this is probably a couple of strands. So the base is flare.
Yeah, let's go back to flare. Yes.
So I did not have this in the one strand sparkle. I put this in the one strand texture grouping because I like this when you're looking for texture, or I mean, I guess a little bit of sheen. I don't know.
I love flare, and there's so many people who say I won't stitch with that, and I think that there's two little tricks you need to know, and they apply to both flare and Frosty Rays. That either when you cut that, and what doesn't make sense, flip that little card around. When they send you a brand new they send you a brand new thing, that thread is cut directly straight, right? That is not how you want to cut that thread.
You got an angle.
And so they started out like that, and so then I think people who've never used it before don't think about it. But you want to cut that as the most extreme angle you can get, and it won't run like it does when it's cut bluntly.
Flare is like a nylon. It's like a nylon for my daughter's like mini Barbies, because it's just a tiny little tube, and it's literally like nylons, like not even tights. It's not thick. No. Nylons, and I think it's made of nylon. Yeah, it's all nylon. Okay, I was making
sure. Yeah. So it is, I think it's an amazing thread, and I hope that people who've tried it before and gave up on it will try it again. Cut it at either extreme angle, use that thread zapper, because the thread zap actually like burns through it and kind of melts it together so it won't shred. Because it has, I thought I had something over here that I had flare in. Oh yeah. So these little pumpkin dots are flare. So it has like a slight shine to it, and nothing has a better look than flare. And it's slightly see-through, which makes it kind of interesting. You can layer it up. And I mean, you can stuff things in it, like people put beads inside of it. There's so many cool things you can do with it. But even just at a basic level, I wouldn't stitch basket weave in it. I think it's better for decorative stitches.
I like it on basket weave on 13 if you need something with just some. That's what I struggle. Would you put it in the category of texture or sparkle? Because I mean, what you use it for one or the other, right? Or both?
It has like a shimmer.
Yeah.
Like it's not sparkly, but it's not. So great. I love it. And then the Frosty Rays has a filament running through it, and it's either I used to know the difference. Treasure braid in one and sparkle braid in the other, maybe.
I bet you. Well, I'm not going to say because people are going to say they're going to roll their eyes. But I think it's sparkle braid is smaller, so I think that's probably. But either way, it's probably like the difference between an 8 and a 12, right?
So the colors are exactly the same, and the base of the colors are the same, but the Frosty Rays takes on a different look to it once the sparkle thread is put through the channel.
Yes. So cool stuff. This also ruches very well. Did you already say that? I don't think you said that. this is a great ruching thread. You grab that little filament and you shoop. I just saw someone turned in a stocking and they used it as snow sitting on the top of a car to make it, like on a ledge or on a tree. But it's great for that. And then most people, I think, again, you're the more experienced stitcher, you would just then thread the filament and use that for the tack down.
Yes, exactly what it is. Yep.
So we're through those. So I think that with the exception of winter, which I have as my cut and go.
Yeah, I think, is there only one color? I think winter only comes in one color.
I think so, because we only have it in one color, and I looked on their website and I didn't.
And it's just a round thread. You can ruche this as well, because that would end up being more like the curly Q like on this guy. But it's just a nice, easy sparkle thread, because we're always looking for a new white sparkle thread because there's so many appropriate uses for it. So
Melissa, do you think that it's similar in color and texture to Snow, the Caron Collection Snow?
It has a little texture to its.
It's a little grittier, isn't it? There's like something.
It reminds me more of like a Kreinik number 12.
Oh, sure.
In 5760 in the marshmallow color.
Snow to me is a little thicker. I prefer it on 13 personally, but
I do too. It lives in our 13 mesh room here.
Gotcha. Okay, so that's our cut and go sparkles. We did our cut and go flat sparkles. I am down to texture. So the texture threads, I think we alluded to this earlier, and this I think could be sort of like a cut and go. I don't know. In some ways, this is also the devil's language, right?
It's totally the devil's work.
I mean,
or if you're doing a Santa's belt, it's awesome. I mean, but you've got to lay it flat on the front and lay it flat on the back, and you have to use a really short leg, and.
It's got a different texture on the back, so you have to make sure it's not twisted when you pull it front and back. I mean, it's rough, but what does this come in? 3 colors? I think it's black, white, and cream.
And like I actually had a riot.
Say it one more time.
I stopped carrying it for a while because I personally don't like it. Like I would do soft sheen fireworks over that any day because I think it looks kind of the same without as much work. And I actually had a riot on my hands. People were like, what? You don't carry a pen? So I carried it.
It's in a lot of stitch guides. It has its place, but it's not a friendly little guy. Arctic Rays is something we only carry. Arctic Rays in white. There's another thread to me that's similar.
Pretty good Arctic Ray sample, and I didn't pull it, but
it's I also love Arctic Rays. If anybody is close with their shop and they're able to pick their cord, I love Arctic Rays in a cord. Like if it's something spunky like a Halloween piece or a real wintry piece, I think this works well. I was saying in a cord.
We discontinued it because we weren't selling that much of it, but I gave it all to my finisher for cording because it's amazing.
Yeah.
But I did use it on his little university snowman, and look at his little scarf. I mean, it is so cute. Because I was like, oh, people just have to know how to use this.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's super cute. But
so, do you find that this is very similar to the ThreadWorks? Is it Expressions? I think is the name of that thread.
I've never used that. You're one up on me.
It's I have a feeling that they're similar. I don't know that line that well. We used to have some of it, but again, we didn't sell it very well either. But I think there's a ThreadWorks, and I'm almost sure it's called Expressions, and it dances in the air just like this guy. So yeah. So Arctic Rays. It says wispy fringe. That's what it says on the top. I like that.
It's super cute in just the right places.
Right. Its friend that's a lot more used, and I think it's easier to use, is Fuzzy Stuff. Fuzzy Stuff comes in, I don't know. We carry the line, but it's not that big. Fuzzy Stuff is funny. I like it. The one thing that gets me on some canvases, when canvases are serious, you know the difference between a serious and a fun canvas, and somebody's doing Santa, I hate to see this on Santa's beard because it's got that clear, sparkly stuff going on. So it's fun sparkle to me. I I don't know. Do you have anything else to say about fuzzy stuff? I guess one strand on 18 works great. I would probably use 2 on 13. It's a little finer.
So I was told at some point to never use 2 strands of fuzzy stuff at the same time.
Because they twist too much.
I have no doubt. I'll tell you, my personal opinion is every time I use it, I tend to use it in long stitches.
Yeah.
There's no point in doing a basket weave. All the fun stuff ends up on the back. So I tend to do it long stitches, and so I use two strands in a needle because it covers more space faster. Can you tell I'm a lazy stitcher? It feels like this is like all roads lead to me being lazy. And you want to use, when you're done stitching with it, you want to use like a toothbrush or those old boo-boo brushes, which I can't source anymore, to run on the top and bring the fluff back.
Are you talking about the bunka brush or a different kind of brush than the bunka?
No, there's something that's Judy's boo-boo brush that's less harsh than the bunka brush.
Huh.
And but you know what? Most of us have electronic toothbrushes, and most of us still get a free toothbrush at the dentist, so they come in super handy.
Wow. Okay. I never knew about the toothbrush. So, yeah. So fuzzy stuff is fun. I think that's way more used than Arctic Rays. But his more serious partner, I think, is Angora. It's not as flashy. Excuse me. But it does give you a nice, and Whisper. Where's Whisper? So Angora, that's what I was thinking of, both of these. So
Beard, he's Angora.
yeah, and we can't really see it's, I mean, the way the camera angle is, we can't see that it has any kind of texture, but there you go. Now we can see that. Yeah, he's got a little texture. I think this is very classic, very more serious, I guess, for a Santa. Or Whisper.
You will need to use an Angora, use a shorter length, not because of any of the other things we've talked about, but especially if you have if you're a tight stitcher. If you use too long of a length and you pull too hard repeatedly, it will break in half.
Yeah, she's a gentle one.
Yeah, you use a short length and a light touch.
It's beautiful though. And there's not that many colors of this, but it's really pretty. Whisper is a friend of his. I think Whisper is thinner. I think way thinner actually. Don't you think, than Angora? Whisper comes in more fun colors.
It's an add-on to me. Like I always tell people to like get a Whisper and a Bella Lusso combination.
I like Whisper and Bermelana.
Yeah, same difference. So I usually use like two strands of Bella, 1 strand of Whisper, and then you get that. Oh, I forgot to. This is fuzzy stuff. I knew that I had this out. Sorry. So these are fuzzy stuff in French knots.
Yeah, so that's a Santa hat and a fun canvas versus the more serious. That's kind of what I was trying to get at. Anyway, Whisper's beautiful. It gives some great texture in a lot of different ways. It comes in a lot of cool colors. Their crazy friend who kind of needs a haircut that people I think love or hate is Eyelash. We brought this in because it was brand new and I was like, oh, this will be fun. I will tell you, I've heard people say, like Melissa did with the patina or panache, I forget now, whichever one you hated. We did a sample of this. I would say don't try to use this unless you're going to do at least over 3. Don't even try a small brick, a giant brick, or an over 3, because really this is awesome, but you got to let it breathe. It has to have a lot of air, because all this stuff is way cool, but it gets tangled in there the minute you pull it through the canvas, and it shreds off too. So short strands, long stitches, super fun. Diane, who works here, doubled it, like stitched twice on a gnome beard.
Cute.
It was so cute. And we were all like patting his beard down because it was like very cool, really long stitches.
And I know that, and I haven't gotten there yet, but we are hosting the Patricia Stone Nativity Club here, and she uses that, and she has you trim it way down. So you're using it, but you're controlling the floof by giving it its appropriate haircut for the size project you're on.
Well, that's a good idea, because then you could have one card and use it on several different pieces, but kind of longer in some places shorter. That's a great suggestion. She's so smart.
That's why she's her and we're us.
That's right. That's why we just bumble around and she's like actually really good. The last 2 I've got on my texture sheet here are velvet, which I adore. I love velvet. Love velvet.
It's so easy to work with. I think newer stitchers are intimidated by it, and there's no reason to be intimidated.
No reason. Velvet lays beautifully in basket weave on the right size canvas. Now, I always suggest petite on 18.
Mhm.
I had a stitcher the other day said, I'm pretty sure I used regular in 18 basket weave. And I was like, did you want to lose your mind?
Well,
Like,
but this is why, because, and this is where my age shows over yours. When they first made velvet, they didn't make petite. And so when you first started using velvet, you used it on either 13 or 18. And as a matter of fact, I don't have my Melissa Prince carousel horse here. That one, I used regular velvet on 18. And it's
but you didn't that. Did you basket weave with it?
totally fine. Totally fine. Now, do I prefer petite? I absolutely prefer petite.
But it'll work. It'll work.
Back in the day, we didn't have all those options. So
we carry this line. I love all the colors are bright. It's fun. It gives you great texture. I mean, you don't have to be like trying to make a camel or something, you know, like, yeah. Oh, did you use it on his face?
great.
Really good.
White is basket weave. And then obviously there's longer stitches.
What I love about velvet is in certain stitches, it gives so much definition to a longer stitch that if you do Alicia's lace in velvet, it looks way different than if you do Alicia's lace in a regular thread. I'm going to show you the sample because it's so shockingly different. I have it right here.
Leave me and I got nothing to talk about.
Huh?
You're gonna leave me and I've got nothing to talk about. Oh, cute.
Do you see that? Do you see how it looks puckered?
Yeah, it looks like it's quilted almost.
Right. So that's because it's tubular. So it keeps its shape. It doesn't
Right.
open up and breathe. So anyway, I love velvet. Anything else to say about velvet? It couches well. It looks like trim on a dress.
The only problem I ever hear about it is, and I wish I had a card here. We had a problem way back when with someone who was doing some stitching for an auction, and they weren't a super experienced stitcher. And so we ended up, actually my old owner had to call Sally, and because the red was bleeding onto the white.
I can see that.
So there's a few things going on. First of all, if you are ever having that issue, if you cut your piece, run the velvet between your thumbnail and the pad of your finger, and you'll see like little dusty flakes come off of it. And that's part of what's spreading, so to speak. And it tends to only be a really vibrant color with white. So, and it also tends to be if you maybe inherited your stash or you've been stitching forever and you have some velvet from 20 years ago, definitely make sure to do that, because it's not going to be an issue as your project ages. It's going to be an issue before you stitch with it.
Gotcha.
Nice.
Gotcha.
So, anyway.
Very good. We got to get moving here because we still have a few more to go. So water and ice is a textured one. I have heard a lot of people say they cannot stand this thread. I don't mind it. I mean, it's like saran wrap.
Right. And if you're going to do eyeglasses, like Santa's eyeglasses, nothing's better.
It's cute.
Windows, so super short lengths. Thread zap is awesome with it. It'll keep it from shredding, and it will shred as you stitch with it, and just bury a thread and start a new one. That's all.
That's right. And there's several colors. We don't sell any. We sell the most of the clear because that just makes it look like window. But we do have a few other colors in that. So I think that takes texture. Now the one thread that I couldn't decide whether I should put it in or if it would fit better in texture or just a one strand non-sparkle, which is what the cut and go non-sparkle, as Melissa would say, is alpaca. Alpaca gives a nice texture, but it's also kind of just like a one strand woolly. I love it for color.
You're showing me something I'm intrigued by. We carry alpaca 18, which by the way, I think is a big lie. I like alpaca 18 on 13. I think it's too much. It's too heavy looking on 18. It doesn't translate well for me. So I wish they would take that off. But what does your other card say?
It's petite. So petite works better on 18.
Oh no.
Well, I can't believe you didn't know. Did I just teach you something?
You sure did. I just had a big aha moment.
Well, yay for you. Yeah, I love alpaca petite.
Oh, I'm so jealous.
You too can have alpaca petite. There's not that many colors.
Oh, I'm so happy to learn this. This is going on my list. Okay.
Yay! Alpaca and alpaca 18, alpaca petite and alpaca 18. I'm with you. I think alpaca 18 is too thick for 18. Long stitches is probably fine, but yeah, there you have it. This is true alpaca wool. It says baby alpaca wool, fine alpaca. The difference in this, I think, is just how dense it is, honestly. This is, and honestly, the petite is a little petite for 18. It's just a little too fine for my taste, but this is too thick. So
Yeah.
who knew? So there we go with alpaca. The other things are with the one strand non-sparkle. We've got capri, which is an interesting thread to me. Do you carry this at all? We don't carry the full line. You don't like it.
I don't like it. Sandy Arthur loves it. It's in a lot of Sandy Arthur stitch guides. And I did that one bunning, which I don't know where he is, and she used a lot of it. And that was enough for me to try it and decide it is not a thread for me. But it has a really nice finish to it that nothing else does.
The finish is great. I call it a matte finish, and the white is whiter than white is white. And I even think it's almost brighter than the B5200 and the DMC line. And the neons are awesome. There's like a neon pink, yellow, green. They're awesome for Halloween stitching, but I think it has its place. That's where I'm at with capri. We don't carry the full line. We carry some interesting colors, and that's where we leave it. We also here do not carry the full line. I don't know if you carry even the black and white and the elegance and the grandeur. I inherited this thread. As far as like carrying it, and I think some people just have gotten used to it. It's a one strand silk. The elegance is like an 8, and the grandeur is am I saying that right? A 5. Yeah. I don't know. I think it has its place. I think it's nice. I don't know what else to say about it. We carry it in black and white. We carry it in kind of reds, greens, the great. It's a pearl silk. So it's like pearl cotton, but it's got a little more sheen, and it's silk. So it's different from like a one strand, like say grandeur is way different from like vineyard. Vineyard is fluffier. It's just way different, but
a tighter twist to it, right?
Tighter, exactly right. Yep. So those are those one strands. We went through neon rays. I think we're on to our pliable, or what was the word divisible?
Strandable.
You use strandable. Someone else said they use divisible.
I think Ellen Johnson calls them.
Yeah, which I think is cool. So the ones that we have here in the shop, and you do too, are Splendor. We've been talking about Splendor a lot. Splendor is like the workhorse silk, right? I mean,
value for the dollar. There's a lot of really pretty 12-ply silks out there, but Splendor has a great color choice, and it is you get the most bang for your buck.
I just used it for a background that I haven't posted yet because I just haven't had time. Back to that. I feel like we beat a dead horse on that. Nobody has time. It's a 12-ply silk. I used 2-ply at Liz's suggestion, actually, who works in Melissa's shop. Melissa gave us this idea for a stitch, and she said, let's do 2-ply. It was awesome. It was awesome.
This background on this little guy, I'm gonna a little bit. That's just 2-ply silk Splendor too.
The plus size
lavender, yeah.
That's awesome.
Stitches. But yeah, I always think you need to use like 3 or 4, but a lot of 2-ply are great. And then you don't have to worry so much about laying them because you can do that railroading technique. That's right.
That's right. And we talked about that in our pliable threads segment also. When it comes to silks, I feel like there's a hierarchy. And I learned this from Connie Camp. Did I ever tell you this? This is weird. So silkworms obviously create silk, and the lower end silkworms produce and produce and produce and produce and produce silk until they die. Okay. The higher end, like the fancier silks, produce one time, and then they say, bye-bye silkworms, thank you for your service. And then they bring in a brand new silkworm. So it's like kind of having like one child. Isn't that amazing? So it's like, I don't know where Splendor and some of these others, but this is a lower end. But I love it.
Value.
It's still silk, right? So it's still like awesome, and you still get a great silk. It's a good value. It's awesome.
And I think one of the big differences between Splendor and some of the other ones that are like longer skeined is, again, it's that crimping and the twisting. And I run my Splendor through a flat iron all the time too. And
Do you?
much nicer. And again, it's back to Jill Likes, all these people that we're learning so many wonderful things from. You don't want to like slowly do it and zap the color out of it. You go whoop with your flat iron, and it
doesn't need much. It doesn't need like starched ironing. Yeah. I used it. I'd used 2-ply, so I cut my thing, and then I like made all my little buddies, and I laid them all out so that I could just go and have them. And it's a great thread. And I think we talked about this before, but I love these. This is the collection cards. You carry these too, I think. They have.
And guess what? I got my Rainbow Gallery order yesterday, and guess what's in it?
Don't tell me the face cards are back. Finally, please.
2 out of 3 of them. No blush porcelain yet.
Santa's Rosy Cheeks is back.
Rosy's chicken.
Yay. So I think there's 8 of these regal purples, the Delft blue, Halloween, Christmas, Santa's Rosy Cheeks.
Three true face cards and then 5 color pins.
So the last strandable that I have here in front of me is Mandarin. And it's funny when you just said, where is this made? This is made in China. So this is bamboo. And so that makes sense because bamboo is a Chinese plant. This is a cool thread.
We don't have room for it again, but it is a favorite of mine.
We do not carry the full line, I don't think. There's a few colors here and there. I think maybe we carry the white. We love the white because the white is like a pure white. You should just carry white because it's just awesome. It's just a white. And then I think we probably have just like a few colors that maybe we ordered in for a customer or a class or just bits and parts here and there. But it's a great thread. It feels like Splendor. It feels like silk. Don't you think so?
Yeah.
It just has a different, more matte kind of sheen to it. I don't know. Do you have anything else to say about it?
It's 6-ply instead of 12-ply, so you'll have to kind of play. Think of it more like a 6-ply cotton. It's not cotton, but in terms of picking your number of strands, think of it more like a 6-ply cotton than a 12-ply silk, because when you pull your strands, you'll be more in.
I agree. So, but it's a cool thread. It's this has got 20 yards on it. I had a huge piece of Splendor, and using only 2 strands, I got really far with just 1 card because I'm getting a low battery. We're talking too long.
Got on too long. Okay. Well, I think we kind of covered it, didn't we?
I think we have too. We did. That was just the last of the 1 strands. The strandable.
Yeah, we've alluded to like threads come and go. So, since I've been a store owner, there have been threads that have been discontinued. There's colors that get discontinued in the line. And so there's always new threads coming out. Some of them have lasting power and some of them don't. So it's always fun to play. So yeah.
It's true. And I've just really enjoyed talking about these because it really is the bulk of what we carry. And there's such a vast kind of offering with them. And so hopefully what we can do sometime is get, like you said, the experts on to tell us what we really should know about some of this stuff.
Rather than the things that we know from just life experience, which I guess speaks to something, but there's probably a lot of really good nuggets that professionals can provide. Yeah.
At least more interesting behind the scenes stuff. How about that? So, well, it's been fun chatting with you. I think we have kept everyone for long enough.